She stopped chasing, and everything started chasing her. Let me say that again, but slower this time. She stopped chasing, and everything started chasing her. See, most people don't realize this, but chasing, whether it's love, approval, success, comes from a place of fear, a place of lack. And when you lead with lack, you attract more of it. It's like running after a bus that's already full. You look desperate. You feel desperate, and desperation repels what you're actually trying to attract. Now, I'm not talking about being lazy or passive. I'm talking about the energy you operate from. That internal shift from I need to prove my worth to I already know my worth. That's where everything changes. That's where you flip the script. That's when the world starts to see you the way you see you. Let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Validation, when it comes from the outside, never fills you up. It leaks, it fades, and it leaves you emptier than before. But when a woman taps into her self-worth, when she operates from feminine energy, when she respects herself enough to stop begging life for crumbs, she becomes undeniable. I've seen women spend years overgiving, over-explaining, overworking, thinking they'll learn love or peace or just the right to breathe fully. And the moment they pause, the moment they reclaim their space, suddenly the same world that overlooked them starts asking for their attention. That's not a coincidence. That's the power shift. Confidence isn't noise. It's silence that doesn't shake. That kind of woman walks in the room and doesn't need to say a thing. She already is the thing, and you can't ignore that kind of energy. You feel it in your gut. That's feminine energy in its purest form, magnetic, graceful, strong without trying to be. And you know what's wild? The moment she stopped trying to be liked, she became loved. The moment she stopped chasing people, those same people started wondering why she disappeared. That's the paradox. When you give yourself the love you kept outsourcing, you become the very source others are drawn to. But let me ask you this, what would happen if you stopped chasing? Stop running after closure, after validation, after the idea that someone else out there can complete you? What if your self-respect became non-negotiable? What if your energy said, I'm not for everyone? And that's exactly the point. Because here's the truth. A high-value woman doesn't need to scream her worth. Her energy whispers it for her. And if you stick with me in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how that transformation happens, the subtle mindset shifts, the confidence codes, the truth about feminine power that most people never teach, because here's the thing, you don't chase what you attract when you're aligned. Demagnetize it. Let's break this down a little deeper. You ever notice how some women enter a room and the atmosphere just changes? Not because they're loud, not because they're showing off, but because their energy is grounded. You can't fake that kind of presence. That's what happens when a woman knows who she is without needing anyone else to confirm it for her. I remember talking to this one friend, brilliant, beautiful, wise. But for years, she kept bending herself into these tiny boxes to be liked. She'd shrink her opinions, laugh when it wasn't funny, agree just to keep the peace. You know, the type of woman who always makes space for everyone else, but no one ever stops to make space for her. That was her. And one day she snapped. Quietly, but completely. She told me, I'm done chasing people who wouldn't even cross the street for me. And when she said that, I saw it in her eyes. She wasn't angry. She wasn't bitter. She was clear. That kind of clarity, it's like a superpower. It changes everything. She started honoring her boundaries. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. She didn't argue to be understood anymore. She just stood in her truth and let silence speak where words used to fail her. And here's the crazy part. The same people who used to ignore her started saying things like, you've changed. But what they really meant was, you're no longer easy to manipulate. You're no longer shrinking to make me feel big. You're no longer chasing. That's the danger of becoming a high-value woman. People either rise to meet your energy or they fall away. And you have to be okay with both outcomes. Because when your self-worth is intact, rejection doesn't sting the same. Silence doesn't scare you. You don't need constant feedback anymore. Look, feminine energy isn't weak. It's not passive. It's receptive. It's powerful in a way the world doesn't always understand. It says, I attract what aligns, and I release what doesn't. That's confidence. That's emotional maturity. That's high value. And here's a mindset shift that might just flip everything for you. Stop asking if you're good enough for them. Start asking if they're good enough to experience you. Because when a woman realizes that not everyone deserves access to her whole life upgrades. She stops chasing jabes that don't value her. She stops entertaining people who drain her. She stops investing in places that never poured back into her. And slowly, the chaos disappears. The drama dies down. Peace enters the chat. You want to know why? Because peace is a symptom of alignment. And alignment comes from finally choosing you. Now, I know some people might hear this and say, that sounds selfish. But let me tell you something, choosing yourself isn't selfish. Abandon yourself to please others, that's the real betrayal. And I'll tell you what most people won't. When you stop proving and start being, when you stop explaining and start embodying, when you stop chasing and start choosing. That's when the world meets the real you. The woman who doesn't need fixing, the woman who doesn't beg to be seen, the woman who already knows she's enough. And let me warn you, once you walk in this energy, once you step into the high-value mindset, there's no going back to crumbs, no going back to convincing, no going back to proving your worth. You look back on who you used to be with so much compassion, but you'll never want to be her again. And that right there, that's growth. That's power. That's what happens when a woman stops chasing and starts choosing herself. Let me tell you something that doesn't get said enough. Your energy teaches people how to treat you. Not your words, not your job title, not how many times you tell them you're a good person. No, it's your energy that says it all. See, when a woman's energy says, I don't chase, I attract, I choose, everything around her adjusts. That's what happened when she stopped chasing. She stopped tolerating halfway love. She stopped explaining basic boundaries. She stopped thinking she had to soften her voice just to be heard. She stopped dimming her light so others could feel comfortable. And that's when she finally stepped into her feminine power. Feminine energy isn't about seduction. It's about intention. It's about being so grounded in who you are that your silence says more than your arguments ever could. It's about walking away not because you're angry, but because peace is more important than convincing someone to love you right. That's when you become a mirror. People start seeing themselves through how they treat you, and sometimes that reflection shocks them. Now let me tell you what happens after minute 2 of that transformation, and I mean deep in the process. When the dust settles, when she's walking different, thinking different, speaking less, observing more, that's when people start circling back. You know what I'm talking about, the old friend who ghosted you, the ex who thought you'd always wait, the boss who never saw your value. Suddenly they're texting you, complimenting you, just checking in. But let's be real, they're not checking in. They're checking your access, and that's when the real test shows up. Because when a woman's healed, she doesn't need revenge. She doesn't need to clap back. She just doesn't let them back in. And it's not because she's cold. It's because she's clear. I once heard someone say, when you elevate, your circle will shrink. And that's true, but what they forget to mention is how freeing that feels. She starts realizing that less isn't lack. That solitude isn't loneliness, it's sacred. That silence isn't rejection, it's revelation. Now let me shift gears for a second because I want to ground this in something real. You ever heard of a woman who left a high-powered corporate job not because she failed, but because she refused to betray her soul one more day? Everyone thought she was crazy. She didn't have a plan B. She had a plan real, a plan to reclaim. She built something that wasn't louder, but was more aligned. And a year later, the same company that undervalued her offered her a partnership. She smiled, declined, and referred them to someone else. That's what happens when you stop chasing. You become the offer. See, mindset for women isn't just about thinking positive. It's about thinking accurately, knowing your value doesn't rise or fall based on who's in the room. It doesn't depend on likes or applause or whether he texted back. It comes from a place deep inside where your self-worth lives, untouched, unshakable, untamed. And when you walk in that, you don't just change your life, change your lineage. Because the younger women watching you, they'll see what it looks like to lead with self-respect, to love without losing yourself, to glow without dimming. They'll know that high value doesn't mean expensive clothes or being perfectly polite. It means knowing you don't beg to belong. Let me tell you something. When she stopped chasing and became that woman, the one who protects her peace, the one who listens to her intuition, the one who knows her worth, even when no one claps for it, that's when life opened up in ways she never expected. And guess what? It can happen for you too, but only if you stop waiting for someone to pick you and start picking yourself. You ever think about how exhausting it is to keep proving your worth in a world that profits from your doubt? It's like being in a maze with no exit. You give and give. You perform. You please. You over-deliver in relationships, in friendships, at work, hoping someone finally sees you. But here's the catch. The people who benefit from your insecurity, they ain't ever gonna validate you. Because the moment you know your worth, their control ends. That's why when she stopped chasing, everything around her shook. Not because she became someone else, but because she finally returned to herself. And that version of her couldn't be manipulated anymore. Let me say it like this. The high-value woman doesn't emerge by adding more, she emerges by removing what was never hers. The expectations, the false labels, the beliefs that said you're too much or you're not enough. She let them go. She stripped down the noise. And underneath it all, she found something solid, her truth. And once you know who you are, it's real hard for anybody to tell you who you're not. Confidence isn't loud. It's steady. It doesn't beg. It doesn't barter. It doesn't enter rooms trying to impress. It enters rooms with purpose. And people feel that. There was a woman I met once. It's called her Elena. She wasn't flashy. She didn't need a spotlight. But when she spoke, everyone listened. She demanded attention, but because she embodied value. She didn't chase relationships. She nurtured the ones that nurtured her. She didn't run after promotion. She made herself undeniable. And when the wrong doors closed, she didn't cry. She said thank you, because here's what she knew. Not every loss is a loss. Some are liberation. That's the mindset shift. That's the pivot point. From scarcity to abundance. From chasing to choosing. From do they want me to do I want them? The woman who stops chasing realizes something powerful. Love is not a transaction. It's not a reward you earn by suffering more. It's not a prize you unlock by shrinking smaller. No love that costs your peace is too expensive. And if it requires you to abandon your self-respect, it's not love. It's control. It's fear in disguise. That's why feminine energy is so threatening to systems built on insecurity. It says I am enough without performance. I'm powerful without control. I'm worthy without compromise. And when you live from that place, you stop trying to prove, impress, or persuade. You simply are. Now listen, this isn't about becoming cold. This isn't about building walls. It's about building standards. It's about choosing to protect your peace, choosing not to settle for half-hearted love, choosing to rise even when it means walking alone. Because sometimes your glow up comes not from getting what you wanted, but from letting go of what was draining you. And when you make that shift, you'll lose some things, yes, but you'll gain clarity, you'll gain freedom, you'll gain a deeper relationship with you. And that's priceless. So no, she didn't stop chasing because she gave up. She stopped chasing because she woke up. She realized that being a high-value woman isn't about how others label you. It's about how you show up for yourself every single day, quietly, consistently. And here's what's beautiful: you don't have to be perfect to be high value. You just have to be present with your needs, your worth, your voice, and present enough to walk away when they're not being honored. Because your energy is your currency. And high-value women, they spend it wisely. Let's bring it all home now, because there's a moment in every woman's life when she has to make a decision between continuing the chase or choosing her worth. And here's what they don't tell you: when you stop chasing, you don't lose anything that was ever truly meant for you. You just stop renting your soul to what drains you. You stop running toward people who would have never walked for you. You stop tolerating almost S and maybe S and I'll try. You start standing in I am. See, this whole time, the world was never asking you to chase. It was asking you to wake up, to realize that self-worth isn't given. It's remembered. And when you remember who you are, a woman with boundaries, a woman with a mindset grounded in truth, a woman whose confidence flows from her own clarity, that's when life shifts. Now, I want you to imagine her again, the woman who stopped chasing. She doesn't need attention to feel seen. She doesn't need noise to feel important. She knows her value because she sits with herself. She listens to the whispers of her intuition. She honors her feminine energy. That energy isn't chaotic. It's magnetic. It doesn't rush. It attracts. And the people around her, they feel it. They don't just respect her, they adjust to her. Because she no longer chases what is beneath her standards. She no longer tolerates what insults her intelligence. She no longer entertains what costs her peace. Costs her peace. Now let's get real. This shift, it's not always comfortable. When you stop chasing, the silence can get loud at first. You'll question yourself. You'll miss the familiar chaos. You'll feel the urge to go back to the habits you've outgrown. But don't, because the discomfort of growth is nothing compared to the pain of self-abandonment. Every time you choose to stay where your soul is shrinking, you're telling your future it doesn't matter. But when you choose differently, when you rise, you give permission to every other woman watching you to do the same. Because being a high-value woman doesn't just serve you, it sends a message to your daughters, to your sisters, to your younger self still hiding in your heart. It tells her, you are enough. You are no longer here to chase. You are here to choose. And before we close this out, let me give you something that could be a real game changer. If you've been vibing with this message, if something inside you is waking up right now, don't let this energy die. I highly recommend you go watch the next video titled, Unleash Your Inner QUE and Confidence Focus for Women, because if this message spoke to the woman you're becoming, that one will show her how to stay there. And trust me, the woman who stopped chasing and became high value, she didn't just evolve. She remembered. She remembered her divine right to be calm in her confidence, to be bold in her choices, to be soft without being small. You've got that in you too. So don't look back. Don't second guess. Don't chase what dims your light. You are a high value woman, and you don't need to explain it. You embody it. We are wisdom recorded, your knowledge source. If this spoke to your soul, hit that like, subscribe, and keep walking in your worth. You don't chase, you attract, and you choose wisely.